On today's episode of the NASM CPT Podcast with me, Richey, I explore pyramid or reverse pyramid training, which is better. So not only do I answer somebody's question about whether it's pyramid or reverse pyramid that's better, I also talk about 5 types of pyramid training that we can see. Also, I find research on what's best, or maybe I don't. Is there any out there? Comparing pyramid training to traditional training, I think also needs to get done. So we talk about that in the podcast. And then we also find the best workouts for your clients, even if research says differently. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family, and leave a 5-star review. Now here's the episode: pyramid or reverse pyramid training, which is better?
Welcome to the NASM CPT Podcast, winner of ShareCare and Gold Marcom Awards. Host and award-winning personal trainer and industry leader, Dr. Richey delivers real-world wisdom and trusted insights that keep you and your clients thriving.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today I got a question from the mailbag, and I wanna just give you the question. This is what was asked in my DM on Instagram. So when I tell you at the end of this, and if you want to reach out to me, hit me up, and then I give you dr.richey on Instagram. People do that, and if you do that, then I can answer your questions like this. I like reverse pyramid sets for my strength and hypertrophy workouts. Mike Matthews, who you had on the show, on his show said reverse pyramid works better than regular pyramid sets because it's really hard to get those last sets of heavy weights. But in reverse pyramid, you get to tire yourself out in reverse, right? And then it gets lighter and lighter. I still get a good stimulus. But can you share what the science says? And if you have a preference on the show, you got it. So I basically do 2 sets of 4 reps. And then after my warm up, get nice and tired. Then I do 6 reps and 10 rep range. I think it does work sort of as a hybrid strength and hypertrophy in the same workout, but that's just anecdote and not peer reviewed research. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for asking the question. Secondly, I copied the question, put it in here, and I did not add your name. And I went back and looked for it, and I couldn't find it. So I'm so sorry if you're listening to this. Just know I'm answering your question, but I didn't give you credit for it. And I'm going to go back and try to find you and apologize to you. But let's talk about pyramid sets. Now, there's a traditional pyramid, which your first set is after a warm-up. It's like 8 to 10 reps. Right? So it's wide at the bottom, the first set. And then the second set, you do fewer reps, like 6 to 8. And then the final set, your third set, and you could certainly do more sets, 4 to 6 reps. And then if you want to keep going, you can keep going. 1 to 2 for a fourth set, etc. Well, a reverse pyramid is opposite of that. You do a warm-up, and what they're saying here is after you do your warm-up, now you do your 4 to 6 repetitions because you're not fatigued, you're warm, you're ready to lift. But if you've already done 8 reps and you've already done, 10 reps, and then you've done 8 reps, and now I want to do 4 to 6 reps, I'm tired. I'm exhausted by the time I get to my 4 to 6 repetitions. So why don't we just lift heavier first? Totally get it, right? So 4 to 6 reps, and then your second set, 6 to 8 reps, and then your third set, 8 to 10 reps. Cool. And that's opposed to like a straight set training, which is 8 to 10 reps, 8 to 10 reps, 8 to 10 reps, or whatever, right? So that's the question. Should I do a traditional pyramid or a reverse pyramid training? Well, before I answer that, I want to go all in on the types of pyramids that you can do, because we did an ascending pyramid, which is the normal, right? So 8, 10, 8, 4, all right? Well, and then the descending is doing the heavier first, all right? So now we're going to do 4, and then 8, and then 10. But then you can do an ascending and descending. So you can do, which we see this quite a bit too. So I'm going to start with 10 reps, and then I'm going to do 8 reps, and then do 6 reps, and then I do 10 more reps, and then I do 8 more reps and the 10 more reps. So it's kind of so it's hourglass shaped. And then there's a bell shaped where I'm going to do light and then do heavy and then do heavy again. And then I do light again at the end. And then there's a double descending where I do heavy and light and heavy and light and heavy and light. And all of these are a version of a pyramid, but some of these might just be a pyramid, a scheme. So I don't know. What does the research say about it? Well, I got to be honest with you. Can find a lot of research on this topic. In fact, didn't find any research on reverse pyramids. The only thing I saw, or a descending pyramid, the only thing that I would see is drop sets. I saw a lot of drop sets where you lift heavy and then you drop set. So let's just talk about pyramid training versus drop set training. So Ennis et al. 2023, the conclusion of that study was that even with similar training volume, drop set training elicited more pronounced psychophysiological responses than either pyramid or traditional resistance training in trained males. However, there is a difference between the drop set and the reverse pyramid. Reverse pyramid has rest. It's basically lift, break. So you do your 4 repetitions, you lift it heavy, and now you take a break. Oh man, good. And if you're doing 4 reps, a 4-rep max, then it's a pretty hardy break. So probably say 3 to 5 minutes. And then you can do your next one, which is like 6 to 8 repetitions. And then you rest again. And then you can do your 8 to 10 repetitions. Now, drop set drops the weight immediately, and that the next set can be performed immediately without any rest, or at least with minimal rest by the time it takes you to drop the weight off or to change the pin and whatever lift that you're doing. So this says that drop set is good for that, where the psychophysiological response, but it really didn't go into anything other than the psychophysiological response, which means people were like, I really liked it. I felt like I got a better workout. So a lot of this has to do with their feelings. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And at the end of this podcast, I'm going to talk about some feelings too. But before I do, this episode of the NASM CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches for just $35 a month. Members get unlimited access to over 300 courses, half off many NASM and AFA certifications and specializations, free Edge Trainer Pro app account to manage your training business, and much more. So go to nasm.org/membership to learn more. All right. Angelari et al. 2017. There was in this, so it was to investigate the effects of resistance training performed in a pyramid versus a traditional system. So I know this isn't the question, but here's an answer to it anyway. Crescent pyramid, excuse me. The crescent pyramid and the drop set systems do not promote greater gains in strength, muscle hypertrophy, and changes in muscle architecture compared to regular old traditional training. Wait a minute. So both a crescent pyramid, normal pyramid, and then a drop set don't promote greater gains in strength, muscle hypertrophy, or change in muscle architecture. When you compare those two different types to just regular old traditional training, which is, I don't know, 8 sets 10, 8 sets 10, 8 sets 10. So not dropping, not going up heavier, just picking that hypertrophy rep range and going into it. Muscular development range, sometimes it's referred to. Well, let's hit the next research. Ribeiro et al. 2017. The purpose of this study was to investigate the effect of resistance training performed in a pyramid versus traditional system on muscular strength, mass, and hormonal responses in older women. Now, the last one was in trained men. The one I talked about before was in trained men. So this is in older women who are not resistance trained, and the results showed that the pyramid and the traditional systems are similar in their effect in promoting positive adaptations in muscular strength and hypertrophy in older women. All right, cool. That's Ribeiro. Also, just to note that Brad Schoenfeld is the second name as co-author in this study, the effects of traditional and pyramid resistance training systems on muscular strength, muscle mass, and hormonal response in older women, a randomized crossover trial. Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. Now, we don't have the ascending, descending research that says, well, if I start with 4 to 6, and let's just say 4. So I do 4 reps, and the next one I do 8 reps, and the next one I do 10 reps. Is that better than if I do 10 reps, 6 reps, and 4 reps or whatever? Just flip it upside down. We don't really have research on that. And here's what I like. So I know that you asked my preference. Here's my preference. I like the regular pyramid. I like to lift a little bit heavy, get my warm up in, and then do a little bit heavy, do a little bit heavier, and then do heavier. And that is my preference. Now, what I also do, if I'm trying to get peak performance out of people, when we do maximum lifts, and whether that's a 5 rep max, a 2 rep max, a 1 rep max, what I'll do is I'll do a warm up, a light, and then follow that with a lighter 10 rep max, and then do 10 repetitions where you probably get 12 to 15. So you've got 2 to 5 reps in reserve. And then I add on weight, and I do 5 reps where they could probably do 8 to 10. And then I add on weight, and I do 5 reps whether they could do 8 to 10. And then I add on weight, and I say, let's boogie. Let's try to get 5 reps out of this and try to get the 5 rep max. And then I'll do a good long rest, and then say, let's go for a 2 rep max, and then go for a 1 rep max. Now, I can understand why somebody would say, let's jump into the 1 rep max or the 2 rep max, because I got all my energy. All my phosphates are there. My ATP is locked and loaded and ready to go. I just don't think a lot of people's nervous systems are ready for that right off the bat. Even though you've done a warm-up, I will say, and this is for me, if I put a heavy weight on my back, like I'm doing squats, my nervous system is like, we ain't going deep. And now I can go to a good depth with that weight, but not jumping right into that. Now, I might do better on a deadlift, but still, I don't like it. It's not my preference. Now, my likes and dislikes change by the month. They change by the year. They change by the day. So my personal preference is kind of the regular pyramid leading up to 1 rep max. So current likes and dislikes. Now, what may also change is the actual research on the topic. What may also change is research may exist comparing these two, and I just haven't seen it yet. But I will also say this, regardless of what comes out, do what you like, do what you prefer. Then when the data comes out and you have science to back you up, still do what you like and what you prefer, but also challenge yourself in another way, right? So if you're like, oh, I've done it this way, and yes, the research says I will be better, I will get better outcomes, I just don't like it as much, then practice sometimes doing the things you don't like as much, and practice sometimes doing the things that you enjoy doing. Because the joy of the lift means more than the very best of the outcomes. And that's a conundrum, right? Because we want to know what's the best thing to do. What do the facts say? And yeah, though I want that information, that makes sense to make them do whatever is most enjoyable for self and for client. But I also want to have that information that says, I know you like this better, but also I know that it may not be the most optimal way. Let's keep that in mind. I have the option to do the best things for clients if they're willing to come along with me. And if not, let's meet them where they are and push them within their performance bandwidth. But if they're not ready to go on that ride with me, or there's a lot of pushback, or they're like, whoa, I surrender, I can't do this anymore, like I hate this type of workout, then that workout is minimized or obliterated. That just may not be for this client. That's not always how I used to train. I used to be that jerk trainer that people would be like, listen, I just don't like anything on a stability ball. I'm like, well, we're going to do stability ball. Why? Why do I behave this way sometimes? Anyway, with that being said, I think that there is value in what we have to offer. And for you, yes, I do want to find the best thing that we can do, but I also want to keep in mind that the best thing for us to do may not be the best thing for everyone to do. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks to our producer, Eric Sorensen. Like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family. Leave a 5-star review. And if you want to reach out to me, hit me up. You can do so on Instagram at dr.rickrichey or email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. You'll keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to NASM CPT Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe for more expert insights that empower you in your fitness career. Stay strong and stay curious.